Liverpool have been beaten by Nottingham Forest. I'm going to repeat that. Liverpool have been beaten by bottom of the table Nottingham Forest. And I can't even sit here and tell you that they didn't deserve the win. That is how bad we were today, my friends. I'm going to take you through my thoughts on the game. I'm sure you'll have similar thoughts to me. I'm sure that there are going to be plenty of opposition fans in the chat bantering us, and you know what? Have at it, because we deserve it. That was a banterful performance today from Jurgen Klopp's Reds, and we deserve to be put to task for it because it was shocking. Look, there's a lot I want to get off my chest around this game, but ultimately for me, this all goes back to the summer. This all goes back to not bringing in midfielders and to not having options for Jurgen Klopp to do something today. Yes, there will be people who want to speak about Jurgen Klopp's team selection. There will be people who want to speak about Jurgen Klopp's tactics. And I promise you, I'm going to go through all of that. But ultimately, it was a shocking performance and nothing that I can say is going to change that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Drop a like on the video. And of course, please do hit that subscribe button. Before I get stuck into the game, I want to make one thing very, very clear today. To those Nottingham Forest players, to Steve Cooper, congratulations on your hard-fought victory. All the best with the rest of the season. To those Nottingham Forest fans who were singing about Hillsborough, you guys are the most disgusting set of football fans that I've ever had the displeasure of hearing chanting at a game. Now let me tell you why I'm particularly disappointed and particularly annoyed with the Forest fans. But for a twist of fate, that could have been Forest fans in that end at Hillsborough. It was a 50-50 which set of fans went in which end, and it may have been Nottingham Forest fans, friends, families, loved ones of those people inside the City Ground today singing and mocking Hillsborough. It could have been their family members and friends who didn't make it home from a game of football. And for all the teams who want to have a pop and take cheap shots at Liverpool about Hillsborough, for it to have been Nottingham Forest is particularly galling, and I'm very, very disappointed in the entire thing. I honestly would have expected and thought better of Nottingham Forest and their fans. A lot of respect has gone out the window today for that club, for their fan base, and for those chants. And it was not isolated, it wasn't singular, it was multiple times, and it's extremely disappointing. But I don't want that to take away from the performance of Steve Cooper's guys on the pitch. They played their hearts out today, fair play to them. But the Forest fans, you know what you are, you don't need me to tell you, that's a new low. Right, let's get stuck into Jurgen Klopp and let's get stuck into the team selection. Once you hear that Darwin is out and you hear that Thiago is unavailable, on top of the fact that you know that you've got no Jota, no Diaz, you're starting to ask yourself, no Keita of course as well, where's the creativity going to come from? How are we going to break them down? And my initial thoughts after the team selection was, we're going to have to keep a clean sheet today and maybe nick something from a set piece. These early kickoffs make me nervous at the best of times, but when you add in a very disjointed team selection, it kind of makes you realise we needed everything to go our way, most likely, and we didn't play. We didn't deserve that from the game. Yes, we can speak about chances we created, but ultimately Forest hit the post, Forest scored, Forest forced Alisson into a couple of big saves, and the only real ones I can think of was a worldy save from Dean Henderson from a Virgil van Dijk header towards the end that he should have scored from. There's no excuses. He was 7 or 8 yards out. He was unmarked. He was central. Couple of yards either side of the keeper, and that's a goal. And you know what? That was the trend with Van Dijk today. I don't know what was up, but from set pieces, he was getting on the end of a lot of them, but his distribution or his selection was just wrong. But you know what? He was the only one that was really doing that in the opposition penalty area, because Firmino wasn't at it. Mohamed Salah was invisible today, and there's no excuses because he was central. We've been trying to figure out how to get him more involved in the game, how to get him central. Today he didn't do anything in that game, and you can say it was because of service or whatever reason, but ultimately he didn't put himself about enough and he wasn't good enough. And neither was Firmino. Fabio Carvalho will have better days at the football club. He still looks a little bit too lightweight at times. Elliott was, I think, trying to force things at times. But the real disappointing thing for me today was Joe Gomez puts in one good performance against Manchester City and now has reverted back to type with 2 poor performances back to back. and almost cost us another couple of goals today. Trent came on for James Milner, but I thought James Milner did a very good job in the game. Again, a really vital block from Milner, which stopped us conceding another goal. Alisson Becker was fantastic, again, making big saves. You know, he can't do it all on his own. Andy Robertson, love Robbo. A lot to admire about him, but I still feel he is too cautious in his possession. He cuts inside too often, and there were times today where Carvalho had made runs down the left side or dropped into the channels, and Robbo just cut inside, played the ball back to Van Dijk on the halfway line, and all the momentum goes out of our attacks. When you're playing against a team like Forest, a team that are going to be compact and sit back, you've got to force errors high up the pitch. You've got to press in numbers, and you've got to make the pitch small and win the ball back as high up the field as possible and try to force those moments of uncertainty, of chaos, and capitalise from them. Because we've known for the longest time that we struggle against a low block team. Today, ironically, was a day that Darwin Núñez probably would have had a hat-trick if he was on the pitch. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp couldn't select him because he felt his hamstring. Kloppo said he'll be back next week, but that wasn't much use to us today, was it? When we needed somebody like him on the pitch. You look to the bench, there wasn't one really attack-minded player on there. You could talk about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, but he's done. His season career at Liverpool's finished. He brought him on, and I don't know what reason for. Honestly, the only thing I can remember him doing was an overhit cross towards Dean Henderson. It was just a shambolic performance, and it's the lowest point of our season so far in my eyes. You know, how can you go in a week and beat Manchester City and put in another great performance, back that up with a very hard fought and yes, sometimes lucky 1-0 victory over West Ham, and then go to a ground where you should be putting them to the sword? Even with your weakest 11, Liverpool should be going there. But unless you match teams in this league for fight, for intensity, unless you put the hard yards in, you're not going to get anything in the Premier League. And Liverpool today just weren't at it. And the questions need to be asked why. Because I tell you what, that midfield, the more I look at it, the more there's no Thiago in it. He carries that midfield. Henderson, I want to be respectful of Jordan Henderson. I do. But when he came on today, again, just nothing. Fabinho, look, I'm getting to the point where I'm calling for Liverpool to sell Fabinho, because he has been a pale imitation of himself, and again caught in possession today, which started the Forest counter-attack, which nearly cost us another goal. So there isn't really anybody outside of Alisson that comes out of that game with any credit. And look, I get people will talk about Klopp and people will call for his head, some people will talk about his changes, but ultimately there was no options today from the bench for Jurgen Klopp, really. We had no attacking players, and that is an indictment of our recruitment. That's an indictment of not bringing in a midfielder, a box-to-box, young, energetic midfielder. You know who I'm talking about. But yet again, we sat on our hands, and FSG have put us into a position where this is where we are. This is who we are now. And we've got to turn this around somehow, get a result in Amsterdam against Ajax midweek, and then come back with a victory against Leeds. But all that hard work, beating Manchester City and West Ham, has been thrown out the window today with yet another shambolic performance. I'm fuming. I'm sure you guys are as well. I'm going to go record my player ratings now. They ain't going to be pretty, but I want to know your thoughts in the comment section, particularly around how disappointed you are in those Forest fans to hear them chanting about Hillsborough when it was themselves that were at that game. It could have, for a twist of fate, been their loved ones or their family members, and of course we wouldn't wish that on anybody. So look, it's another disappointing day as a football fan for me, both for Liverpool and for the game in general, and I want to know your thoughts. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.